Hello and welcome to the Performer's Guide. Get your act together 21-day personal challenge. We are on day 10. Day 11. We're on day 11. We're over halfway there. So today we are going to be focusing on our goal setting. So yesterday was day 10 and we did our Wheel of Life. So from the Wheel of Life, you will have your action steps, all of the different types of activities that are of importance for you to focus on for this round for 2023 in general. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our Wheel of Life worksheet and we are going to transfer it into making SMART goals, which will help you, it'll help me help you, and it'll help us gain clarity for our goals for 2023. Okay? So first, what are SMART goals? How is it different than a regular goal? Oftentimes when people come to me and they have goals, their goals something like, I want to be a professional performer. I want to make more money. I want to go on tour. That's a goal. It's not a SMART goal though. And so we're going to learn what the difference is between a goal and a SMART goal. And so a goal is, I want to be a professional performer. A SMART goal is, I would like to have 4 gigs a week that pay me $500. That's a SMART goal. It's very specific and something that I can help you towards. Okay? The more vague we are with our goals, the more vague the universe is going to be with helping us to achieve those goals. And the more specific we can get with our goals, the easier it is for the universe and me to be able to help you achieve these goals. Okay? So, what does SMART stand for? SMART is an acronym. Not only do we want to make SMART goals, but we want to use the acronym to help us clarify how we make those goals SMART. And so there's 5 steps to it. It has to be specific. Okay? I want to be a professional performer isn't quite as specific as I want to be a professional hula hoop performer, right? I want to be a professional stilt walker. That's a more specific goal. M is for measurable. So it's like, okay, I want to be a professional hula hooper. How many hoops do I want to use? How many gigs do I want to get? How many? We want to be able to measure and quantify our goal in this way. A, achievable. If you're coming to me and you have no business and your goal is to make $1 million in your first year, it might not be achievable. Might be achievable. I don't want to hold you back, but it might not be achievable. But earning $1,000 in a month, that's achievable. Earning $10,000 in a month, that's achievable. And starting to build ourselves up to, okay, well, if I'm making $10,000 a month, then that can get me to $100,000, and then I can invest it and help grow that into $1 million. Yes? So what's our big goal? How can we make it achievable? By breaking it down into little actionable steps. Okay? And then we have R. R is results focused. So this is going to give us a chance to give the goal parameters. How are we going to be able to quantifiably measure that we are getting results for this? And so is the result money? Is the result getting work? Is the result finishing a project? What is the result that we're looking for? And how are you going to be able to quantify that in a timely, which is our last one, T, in a timely manner? Okay? So if you say, I want to go on tour. Okay, when? When? Let's set that date. And if you've done any group call with me or any private call with me, you know that the second you set a goal with me, I'm like, all right, let's put it in the calendar. When are we doing it? When's the goal date? So that's really, for me, one of the biggest ones, is just setting a date. You know, it's like, okay, I want to go on tour. When? March? September? This is a 2024 plan. If we can quantify that time, that'll let you know how to break it down backwards. Okay? It's often difficult, especially if you have ADHD, to see the forest through the trees, to see what the end goal is. If you're just like, I have a goal and I'm working my way this way towards it. So when we create these parameters of creating a SMART goal, it actually helps us to look at the finish line first of knowing the who, what, when, where, why of the goal. And then we can work backwards, actually, to where we are, creating small actionable steps. And then that gets us to now. And then we use that to take ourselves forward and go towards our goal setting. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start to break down what each one of these mean a little bit more. And then we're going to look at your wheel of life and use that to break down the goals that you set for yourself over there and make them a little bit more actionable. So one exciting thing that I've done is I have updated the habit tracker spreadsheet to have a goals section in there. So if you go to the habit tracker, the digital spreadsheet, there's different tabs at the bottom. One of them says goals. On there, it breaks down each of the sections that I created for the Wheel of Life, and it gives you an opportunity to make goals for each section. And so you should already have your Wheel of Life written or typed out. And so now you can just transfer it really easily to this new template that I created. And in there, you can start to create habits that you would like to do for each category. And then you can create weekly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly goals for each one. And so in our, let's say, personal development category, you might look at those and go, okay, some of these could be daily habits that I can start to do. Like, I want to journal every day. Some of them could be, okay, I want to complete this mastery course by the end of the year. Maybe you have a yearly goal for your mindset. And so we're going to do this for each one of figuring out what the category is. Is it a weekly, monthly, daily habit? And what is the date for completion on this, so that we can look back and go, okay, great, I have achieved it, or oops, I need a little bit more time to achieve my goal. Okay? So some questions to ask yourself is, when we're creating a goal, when you have, an action item on the list, is it sized? Is it a sizable chunk that you can achieve in a single unit? Or does it need to be broken down into smaller, actionable bite sizes? And so I noticed that is often one major hurdle for people, is they create a goal and then the step to get to the goal is like this. And you're like trying to jump up there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the goal and then start to break it down into sizable pieces. So you've got your list of your Wheel of Life activities. Look at each one, and as you start to move them over, give yourself an opportunity for reflection and go, okay, can this be broken down into smaller chunks? Like maybe a yearly goal of, I want to complete this course, can be broken up into small, actionable weekly steps of, okay, well, if I want to complete it in a year, I need to read a chapter a week or whatever it is. And so start to break down the goal in that way. Is it sizable? And can you break it down? The other opposite is sometimes people make goals and they're too small. They're like, come on, you're not even pushing yourself. It's like if you're already getting gigs, saying, oh, I'd like to get 1 gig a month. That's not a big goal. You know what I mean? You're playing small. And so we want to find a nice balance, not too big, not too small. And how can we upsize or downsize our actionable steps to achieve the goal? Okay. And then the next is to think about, what is the minimum amount of effort I can do to achieve this goal? Yes. What can you do now to start to break apart that goal? and what is missing for you to be able to break down that goal a little bit more. So maybe it's needing to get a vehicle, or maybe it's needing to get more education, or breaking it down in some way. And it's like, what is needed to break down the barriers between you and your goals, okay? The next is we want to figure out what resources you have for the goal, and more importantly, which ones you do not have. So if you're missing resources that are needed for your goal, this is an excellent time to start building what I call your dream team, right? So if one of my goals is to finish my website, and I'm not good at building websites, I'm gonna hire my web developer to help me, and figuring out what resources I need to help me achieve that goal. And then knowing what resources you can offer to this goal. Okay. So we're going to go back over the some ways to make your goals measurable. And how do we measure a goal? Okay. This is some that I've added since last time. Last time we just talked about measuring our goals, but I realized I didn't give many examples for specifically how to quantify our goals, which I think was actually helpful for this. So first is quantity. Okay. So if you're saying, I want to go on tour, how many tours? How many tours do you want to go on this year? And how many locations are at each tour stop? Okay. So maybe the first tour is a tour of 3 locations. Maybe the second one, you're going to go 5, 10. Or maybe you're just starting out with 10. So you want to figure out what the quantity is. Okay. The next is figuring out the quality. Okay. So maybe you want to go on a tour, but this one isn't going to be like the big tour. You know, maybe you're planning a big tour 2024, but you want to start to practice, start to get some of the pieces going. You might say, okay, I'm going to get a rough draft of this finished by then. And so the quality might be a little bit lower than what you had anticipated, but it allows you to get a step towards your goal. Like for the performer's guide, right? This is a lower quality than what the original or what the full finished product is going to be, because I'm constantly taking steps towards improving it. But if I had just waited until the full finished product was there, I wouldn't be doing this call right now with you, right? So figuring out of like, okay, maybe how can I lower the quality output in a way that is still reasonable for my clients and acceptable, but allows me to get closer to my goal without having to deal with the dreaded perfectionism. Okay. Next is time. So again, we have the time bound, which is knowing like, okay, I want to have this done by this time. But you can also do it by length of time, right? So maybe your first performance is only a 3-minute piece, but the full show is an hour, right? Let's just get a small little taste of what the show is. So maybe you want high quality, exactly how it's going to be, but only a 3-minute sampler of it. Or maybe you're just going to pump out the full amount, but it's a little bit lower quality, and that's okay, and you'll work with it in the future. Okay. The next way to quantify it is cost. So either cost or income. So how much are you willing to spend on this goal, and how much are you anticipating on making on the goal? So there's some goals where it's like, okay, if I've spent $10,000 on this and I haven't achieved it, maybe I've hit the marker, for trying to reevaluate the goal. Or if I'm trying to earn an amount of money, I can start to reflect back and go, okay, I'm not making enough. How can I shift my sale, my goal, my perspective to achieve that cost analysis? So the next would be frequency. So let's say you want to have a show. Maybe you've been doing a digital show, but now you're ready to go to in-person shows, and you're ready to start that process. Well, it's like, okay, how often? How often are we doing the show? This is once a year? Once a quarter? Once a month? Once a week? They're kind of the standards. So you got 1 show a year, 4 shows a year, 12 shows a year, 50 shows a year. How many are we trying to do? Okay, what is the frequency of this? And then the last is percentage. So let's say that you are already a performer, you already have multiple businesses, and your goal is to increase your income to $100,000, let's say. And you're working on this goal. Well, how much of a percentage is the activity that you're working on going to achieve that goal? So we do this in our financial analysis of figuring out what our financial freedom numbers are, and then how do we break apart that number into our different revenue streams. So if I want to make $100,000 a year, it's $50,000 of that from the performer's guide, $10,000 from performing, $100,000 here, there. You want to start to do that math. What percentage of the overall goal is the smaller goal fitting into the original goal? Yes? So then we want to make our goals attainable. And so we talked a little bit about this, about goal sizing, but here's some other just tips and tricks to help you making your goal attainable. First is starting small. So if you're trying to go on a tour, it might be more difficult to go on a world tour before going on a local tour, right? It might be easier to plan a tour of 3 stops than a tour of 10 stops. And so figuring out what is the small, bite-sized version of this goal that you can achieve quicker. Next is have a plan. A business plan. Business plan. If you don't have a business plan, at least make some kind of plan. Because otherwise, you're just going to go, and then all of a sudden, you're going to be so far off path, and you're going to be like, wait, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? And so if you have a plan, it's easier to realize when you're getting off the course a little bit, or give you an opportunity to reflect and go, oh, okay, actually, this is the new plan. And a plan has to be further than just inside your brain. It needs to be a written down plan that you can show and talk and exchange with other people. Next is keeping track of your progress. So we're starting to do that with our habit tracking, right? Of just figuring out how to keep track of our progress on things. And then we're going to talk about this during Price Yourself Like a Pro, or Think Like a Business, somewhere in there, where we're going to talk about looking at ourselves year over year, right? How much was I making this year or this time last year? And looking at those numbers end over end can be very helpful to just see where you are in your progress. Okay, are we going forward in progress? Are we going backwards? Are we stagnant? The only way to do that is to actually track our progress. Next is stay focused. Are you a ping pong? Are you a golf ball? Right? If you know my analogies, people who maybe have a little bit more difficulty focusing, their goals tend to look like a pinball, just bouncing around. They're jumping from goal to goal to goal to goal without really achieving any of them. And then oftentimes, for me personally, if I do the pinball method, I can make a little bit of progress on a lot of things, but I don't make very much progress on anything. And so instead, we want to be focused like a golfer who is achieving multiple goals, right? You got 18 holes or 9 holes, but they're hitting one at a time. One direct, focused jump towards the goal, okay? There's no right or wrong way to do a goal, let me say that, but I having worked with hundreds of people, watching people pinball around tends to be emotionally draining, tends to sort of lower our motivation, and can just be a strain on our resources. And so instead, having a focused, direct goal that we are achieving one at a time, and then it gives you a chance to, after each hit, right, the golfer reevaluates, reassesses, as opposed to a pinball player who just boop, 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 multi-ball, bouncing around, making goals, and then usually what happens, all the balls fall into the hole. right? So we want to try to prevent that and keep you focused during this round. And then the next is to be flexible, both flexible in your approach and also flexible with the results. So you might have a really good idea of your goal and what you think it's going to look like, but during the process, you might go, oh, okay, I got to be flexible. I got to change directions. I have to change people who are involved, locations, the whole layout of things. Like for instance, with the performers guide, the pandemic hit and I had to completely change the way that this program was structured. It actually worked out very well for me. But if I wasn't flexible during the beginning and modified it to the way that it needed to be, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now. And so that's what we're going to do with you, is keep you flexible so that you can adapt to the changes as they come with the goal. Now we're going to just focus on the realistic part, results focus. So R can either be realistic or results focus. So is it really achievable? Are we pushing too far? That's just one thing we want to reflect on, is this actually a realistic goal for me to achieve? And did you break it down into smaller goals? Do you have the necessary skills? So we're going to go over this maybe in the next module, in the next couple, our skill mapping. It's a beast of a module, I will say. It's like 30 pages, but it's great because it literally breaks down every profession that you could possibly want in the entertainment industry, and then it lists all of the skills needed for that task. And then we can start to build our dream team off of any skill that we don't have for this. And then figuring out who can help you with the goal, who you can help achieve a goal. Maybe there's goals in your community that you can help, and then helping them achieve their goal helps you achieve your goal. And consider the resource constraints, which I already went over. And then here's some questions that you can ask yourself to just keep yourself on track. Do these goals fit in with your long-term goals? So sometimes I see clients, they will create long-term goals, and then halfway through the long-term goal, some random podcast opportunity pops up, or some random thing that's like not even in your original goals, values, and now all of a sudden we're derailed doing somebody else's podcast or other project, and really just figuring out of like, okay, wait, let's reflect here. Does this actually fit within my goals? And sometimes they can feel deceptive because they're like peripheral to your goals. They seem similar to your goals, but it's not actually part of your goal setting. And so that's what we really want to figure out is this actually part of your goal setting, or are you pinballing and derailing and going to distract yourself from your true goals? Again, dropping back into our why, when we're doing our goal setting, as we're doing this, making sure that you understand your why and really tapping into that, because you might have some goals set in the wheel of life, and as you're starting to transfer it, and you're like, okay, wait, these don't actually fit in with my larger goals. This isn't actually that important right now. And so we really want to focus on that as we're doing it, is the why. It's like, okay, wait, why did I put this on the list? And then focusing on they're called hard goals, which is how do we feel after we achieve the goal? So we've got the goal, we're working towards it, and then at the end, how do you feel afterwards? Because that's really some of the most important part of it, is achieving the goal so we're financially successful, but also making sure that we're emotionally satisfied and supported during this process. Because I've seen clients and I've worked with clients and I've gotten them all the way through their goal, and at the end they're like, I feel like shit. I feel like shit. I'm not happy. This is not like what's happening here. And so we want to reflect on that and think, okay, what happened in the process that potentially brought us here? And then also reflecting of, if that's the way you're going to feel at the end of a project, perhaps this isn't the project that you want to continue working on. Or if it is a project you want to continue working on, how can we change our mindset throughout the process so that at the end of it, we are feeling fulfilled and energized about the project? Which is especially important for touring. There is a whole post-tour depression that happens that I don't think a lot of people talk about. And I've noticed now, taking several clients through the Take Your Show on the Road program, that it's an emotional journey that you go on, and there's a lot of self-reflection at the end of, processing information that you've received during it, changing course, and how do we stay focused, grounded, centered during that process so that when we return, we're feeling good about it and not like super drained. And then we're going to want to start to potentially list out what obstacles we can see coming through. So if you're planning on going on a large tour, what potentials could happen? Like if you're going on a car tour, potential car trouble could happen. So starting to mitigate those potential issues so that when they arise, you're like, oh, I planned for this. I have the kit, the tire repair kit that I need, or I have the jack to change my tire. So prepping out all of the potential downfalls that could happen during this goal so that we can start to piece together solutions before they even happen. Okay. And then we want to finally, in the T section, we want to make our goal time bound. Okay. So give it a deadline. Don't be afraid of deadlines. Just put a date, work towards it, work backwards from it, see if it is even realistic, right? Sometimes we set time, I want to go on tour next week. Okay, well, what preparation needs to happen? And then once you start figuring out the preparation, you're like, oh, I got to get my visa. I have to get my passport. Okay, well, I can't leave now for 3 to 6 months. Okay, well, that changes the timeline, right? And so figuring out what that timeline is and what we need to do to achieve that timeline. And then again, being flexible with the deadline, knowing that we're going to work towards it. It might not work. I thought I was going to finish the Performer's Guidebook foolhardishly the December of last year and then the December of the year before. I was like, by the end of the year, for sure. And then, of course, this year, I'm like, I think I'm going to finish it by the end of the year. So I keep being optimistic, and I don't feel bad about myself when I arrive towards the goal and I'm like, oh, this isn't going to happen, because I've made so much progress towards it. And thinking about it, that it is going to happen at that time, even if it doesn't, pushes me to push so much harder and further than if I had put the original goal as, okay, I'm going to finish this in 2025. Probably would have put in the same amount of effort. You know what I mean? Again, time bound. I feel like I say it in every section, but breaking the goals down into smaller goals is really going to be helpful. So if you've got, I want to go on tour in 10 months, when do you need to make the event page? When do you need to have the contract signed with the venue? When do you need to have your routine finished? When do you need to have all these other things? What other things need to be done? And start to work backwards from there so that you can achieve those. Creating a schedule. So this is similar to breaking it down, right? And working backwards. And then once we have those, then creating your daily, weekly, monthly habits so that they work to achieve this goal. And then lastly is celebrating your achievements. This is such a big one. I see so often people just sort of brush through the achievements. I'm like, oh, what'd you do this week? Catch me up on your week. And they're like, oh, nothing. And they're like, oh, well, I won an award. Oh, well, I booked a gig. And it's like, wait, all these, first you said nothing. And then now you're like backtracking with all these incredible things that are happening. And it's like, how often are we doing that in our minds of downplaying our successes, completely overlooking them, or not taking a moment to acknowledge, recognize, and appreciate how far we've come. And people do it with me. They're like, wait, this is a celebration moment. I do it with other people. And so it's important for you to stop and go, okay, wait, I made an improvement. I made change. This is worth celebrating. And the more you can celebrate and sit in that celebration, the more the universe like wants you to sit in that celebration, and it like works in conspiracy towards helping you achieve goals. Because like, wow, she's very grateful for all the things I'm giving her. She's really appreciating it. So the universe will naturally want to give you more things, and your eyes will be open to more things if you are grateful and appreciative. So what's the goal? What is the deadline? How can you break it down into smaller goals? How can you ask for help for these goals? How are you going to track your progress for them? How are you going to overcome obstacles? These are all questions that we're going to work on with our SMART goals. Okay? So your goal is to create goals. The SMART goal is to create SMART goals that are in alignment with your core values and your vision and your why, right? So really sit into that when we're doing our goals, and make sure that it's actually something you want to do, not something you feel like you should be doing, or that it's something that is like, oh, it's the next logical step for me, or maybe somebody else is coming to you and trying to talk you into working on their project. Really sit into it. Do I want to do this? Do I need to do this? Should I do this? Is this in my best interest? And sitting in that and knowing that it's okay to say no. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to put something onto the back burner. It's okay to narrow down our focus so that we can achieve smaller amount of goals, but we're achieving more goals. It moved there. Sorry, it like flopped up. I was like, wait, where am I on this? Okay, great. So then the last step is identifying your obstacles. And this might be technical obstacles. This might be emotional obstacles. This might be logistical obstacles. It might be a resource-based obstacle. You want to figure out what the obstacles are, and don't worry about it, like overcoming the obstacle immediately. Just identify the obstacle and then start to, over time, think about ways to overcome the obstacle. I do see a lot of people focusing on the obstacles, right? Of like, you've got this goal, and then they're like, oh man, but there's this big obstacle in my way. Oftentimes, it's not as big of an obstacle as we think it is. It is an optical illusion of how big the obstacle is. But if we just change our focus and the way that we perceive it, the way that we approach it, a large obstacle could actually be a small obstacle, right? So like looks like a bigger obstacle than this. It's like a smaller obstacle, right? It's the same obstacle. It's just my perception. If I'm perceiving it this way, it's much larger. If I'm perceiving it this way, it's like, oh, it's not such a big problem. I can get over that, versus like trying to step up the big obstacle. And so it's like, okay, how can I change my perception so that the big obstacle is actually a smaller obstacle? Oh, I see why it's doing it. If I change my phone this way and then this way, it goes back to the top. And then as we are going through it, even in the course of the few weeks, the course of the year, few months, you might actually go, I don't want to do this goal anymore. I changed my mind. That's okay. Do it. Change your mind. Even if I help you go through 3/4 of it and then you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. That's fine. I've helped people create whole acts, whole tours, and then they don't go. I've helped people go all the way to buying businesses, selling businesses, creating nonprofit organizations, like getting so close and then being like, just kidding. So that's okay. And so we're going to be just gentle with ourselves on our goals, because we're human and we've got a lot of big ideas and not a lot of time and resources to do all of them. So it's kind of a yes and moment, right? We're going to write down all the goals, figure out all the things we want to do. And then as we start doing them over time, we might go, never mind. And then lastly is, who will you be when you achieve this goal? So visualizing an idealized version of yourself. Who is this person who achieves these things, right? Like when I started the Performer's Guide, I wasn't necessarily a business coach yet, right? I stepped into that. I had business training, I had coaching training, but me stepping into this role was a lot more steps than just turning on a Zoom call, right? And so figuring out, who do I need to be in order to be the Performer's Guide, right? I need to be a little bit more than just Kristen. I need to be the Performer's Guide. And so I feel like I'm even still stepping into that role of being the most idealized version of myself as the Performer's Guide, while giving myself gentleness and flexibility of dealing with all the things that I've dealt with since the beginning of starting this business, right? The pandemic, my mom died, moving, completely changing states, selling my business. Like so many things happened through the course of me creating the Performer's Guide that I am still processing and stepping into my idealized version of myself, just like I did when I stepped into becoming a performer. You know, you have to become that new next level idealized version of yourself. And so we will work on that when we do our branding. We're going to focus on creating our avatar so that we can be the person that we need to be to achieve the goals that we set out for ourselves. Yes? So I love SMART goals. If you do anything in this program for the 21 days, please do the Wheel of Life and your SMART goals. They are, in my opinion, the most important. They're the first two worksheets that I created for this program, and they're worksheets that I've used well before I created the Performer's Guide, and they are just seriously game-changing for me and how I perceive my life, my goals, and how I set myself up for success to achieve those. So please do your Wheel of Life, please do your SMART goals, and then when we have our next call, we can review them and go over and make sure that all your goals are in place. And then if you'd like to share your goals, you can share the document with me, and then I can help you edit them, put them in the correct order if needed. So once again, I have created a new SMART goal spreadsheet template, which I'll add to the post as well. So you can just click it right there. But you've got the worksheet for your SMART goals. But then I've got a template for you to actually input all your goals into now. I love SMART goals, and I look forward to seeing all of yours. So once again, my name is Kristen Railing. We are in the Performer's Guide, Get Your Act Together, 21-day personal challenge. We're on day 11. We've got 10 days left, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.